Have you ever noticed how some men get left, and the woman who left can't stop thinking about them 6 months later? Not the guy who texted her every hour, not the guy who cried at the door. The one who simply stopped, packed his emotional bags, wished her well, and walked. And she's haunted by it. Why? Because she realized too late that he had something most men never develop, a bone-deep sense of self-respect. And today I'm going to break down exactly what that looks like, why it's the single most attractive quality a man can carry, and how most men quietly destroy it without even realizing it. Jax OS here. Welcome to the channel. Here's the uncomfortable truth most men don't want to hear. The moment a woman starts losing respect for you, she usually keeps it to herself. She won't announce it. She won't argue about it. She'll just slowly start pulling back. Less affection, shorter replies, more nights she's too tired. And the man, instead of noticing the pattern, doubles down. He tries harder. He plans more dates. He becomes more accommodating, more available, more agreeable. He shrinks himself to fit what he thinks she wants. And every time he does that, he loses a little more of her respect. Because here's the thing she can never explain but absolutely feels. She doesn't want a man who bends himself into whatever shape she needs. She wants a man who already has a shape, his own. Self-respect in a man isn't arrogance. I want to make that clear before we go any further. It's not attitude. It's not playing games or acting cold. Self-respect is simply the quiet, unshakable belief that your time, your energy, your presence, it all has value. And that belief shows up in everything. It shows up in how you carry yourself when she's in a bad mood. It shows up in whether you cancel your plans to chase her approval or hold to what you said you were doing. It shows up in whether you tolerate disrespect in silence or address it with calm directness. Women are watching all of it. They always are. And they're not looking for perfection. They're looking for consistency. They're looking for a man who respects himself enough that he doesn't need her to do it for him. Now, let me show you what the opposite looks like, because I think most men recognize themselves here more than they want to admit. A man with low self-respect in a relationship tends to agree with things he disagrees with, laugh at things that bother him, and accept treatment that quietly humiliates him, all to keep the peace. He tells himself he's being the bigger person. He tells himself this is what love looks like. But what he's actually doing is teaching her exactly what she can get away with. And women are not cruel. Most of them aren't testing you on purpose. But when a man shows no boundary, when he folds on everything and holds the line on nothing, she fills that vacuum. She starts making the calls he should be making. She starts pushing because he's shown her there's no wall to push against. And then she gets tired of pushing, and she leaves, and he's blindsided. He has no idea what happened. Here's what happened. She lost the thing that attracted her in the first place, the sense that he valued himself. Think back to when she fell for you. I'll bet you weren't agreeing with everything she said. I'll bet you had opinions. You had places to be. You had standards for how you spent your time. You weren't desperate for her validation because you hadn't handed her that power yet. That version of you had self-respect by default. And somewhere along the way, maybe gradually, maybe all at once, you stopped being that man. You started optimizing for her comfort instead of your own integrity. And she felt the shift even if she couldn't name it. That's why the man women genuinely regret losing is almost always the man who held on to himself. The one who stayed the same person he was on day one. Hear me on this. So what does self-respect actually look like in practice? Because I don't want this to be abstract. I want you to be able to measure this in your own life. First, you keep your word to yourself. When you say you're at the gym, you go. When you say you're done scrolling at 10 p.m., you're done. When you say a certain behavior is unacceptable, you mean it. Self-respect starts with internal integrity. The relationship you have with yourself sets a floor for every other relationship in your life. If you constantly break promises to yourself, you're training yourself to believe your word doesn't matter. And if you don't believe your word matters, why would she? Second, you address things directly and early. The man with self-respect doesn't let resentment build. He doesn't stockpile grievances and blow up 6 months later. When something bothers him, he says it calmly, clearly, without drama. This is not being difficult. This is being honest. And honesty even uncomfortable honesty, is far more attractive than the slow suffocation of a man who's always pretending everything is fine. Third, you don't chase emotional balance by chasing her. If she's in a bad mood, you don't spend the next 4 hours trying to fix it. You give her space. You stay in your own lane. You're not indifferent to her feelings. You care deeply, but you know that her emotional state is not your emergency. A man who collapses every time the temperature drops in the room is exhausting to be with. A man who stays steady no matter the weather, she can breathe around him, and she'll trust him because of it. Fourth, you have non-negotiables and you live by them. I don't care what they are. Maybe it's how you expect to be spoken to. Maybe it's loyalty. Maybe it's that you never miss Sunday morning with your family. Whatever they are, they're not up for debate, and you don't apologize for them. Because a man without non-negotiables is a man without an identity. He becomes whoever the room needs him to be, and that's a terrifying thing to build a life with. Women want to know who you are at your core, not who you are when things are good. Anyone can be great then. They want to know if there's something solid inside you that doesn't shift when things get hard. Now, here's where I want to be straight with you. Building self-respect isn't something you do to attract women. I know this is a relationship channel. I know why you're here. But if you try to manufacture self-respect as a dating strategy, she'll see through it immediately. This isn't performance. It's a practice. It's built in the private moments, in the way you treat yourself when no one's watching, in the standards you hold when there's no audience, in the choices you make at 6 a.m. when you could sleep in or get up and do the work. Those small private decisions are the foundation. The woman isn't the goal. Becoming the version of yourself you actually respect. That's the goal. And when you get there, the relationship follows naturally, and it lasts because it's built on something real. So here's your homework. I want you to sit with this honestly. Think about the last time you compromised something you believed in to keep the peace. Think about the last time you said yes when everything in you said no. Think about the last time you let something slide that you should have addressed. I'm not asking you to beat yourself up over it. I'm asking you to notice the pattern, because awareness is where it starts. You cannot build self-respect if you can't first see where you've been giving it away. Write it down. One sentence. I lower my standard when I finish that sentence. And then ask yourself, what would the man I want to be have done instead? That gap between those two answers, that's your work. Start there. Today, when you hear people say he was the one who got away, it's almost never about looks or money or status. It's about how he made her feel in the presence of a man who knew his worth. A man who didn't need her to tell him who he was. A man who was going to be okay no matter what. And she knew it, and it made her feel safe and lit up and challenged all at once. That man is rare. And he's not rare because he's got some secret advantage. He's rare because most men never do the inner work. They spend their whole lives outsourcing their self-worth to the people around them, their boss, their friends, their partner. Don't be that man. You know what you need to do. Go do it. If this connected with you, drop a comment below. I genuinely read every single one. And if someone in your life needs to hear this, send it to them. See you in the next one.